Ofiho. Is that a week from Sunday already? Yeah, a week from this Sunday is going to be June 4. Go to rocketmortgagefieldhouse.com for tickets and info and all that. You get the last pair from me this week for Paramore and Block Party on the 4th. Good luck. Have fun. 216-578-1007. Looking for caller 10 or 800-348-1007.
The Alan Cox Show.
Podcast anytime on our iHeartRadio app.
Ooh, what's a podcast?
Like a TV show, but without the pictures.
Baby, that's called radio. What you're describing is radio.
And live on the radio weekday afternoons.
On 100.7 WM.
One of three in that series against the White Sox last night in the Funny Bus. People were giving me a hard time by being a White Sox fan. I said, listen, I don't know how they're beating the Guardians, but they were doing it. Guardians are... Nobody's having... Yeah, right. My A and B team, neither of them are having a great time just yet. But the Guardians will get back to it tomorrow night here at home against the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't know how they're doing. But 7:10 is going to be your first pitch tomorrow night, live from Progressive Field. And here on MMS, and you can also listen on the free iHeartRadio app. So keep that in mind. Netflix has finally cracked down on the password sharing.
I saw that this morning when I logged in.
I haven't seen it, but my father-in-law hit me up, and he's like, hey, is it cool? We got a notice that $8 is going to be added to your account because they use our password. And I was like, it's fine with me. I mean, I didn't know that that was finally happening. After that HBO Max flop, boy, that was a big, you can chalk it up to, well, it's a major rollout, and so, there's going to be some difficulties there. But a lot of people had trouble with HBO becoming Max because they said, oh, you won't have to change anything. The app will just update. Of course, it didn't. If you had Roku, you had to update your entire system for it to even show up. But Netflix has been saying for a while, hey, no more sharing passwords. Sharon Passwords, of course, one of Mary's fellow cheerleaders back at the University of Toledo.
Yes, ma'am.
Sad how she died.
She was a base. Netflix, yeah. So in the U.S., they're going to be blocking people, but each extra person is going to cost you $8 a month. And so, you get the feeling that for the 4 or 5 years that Netflix was the only game in town, they really could have done more to prepare for this moment. I don't know. It feels like they squandered a lot of their capital with the audience. Because because if you have more than a few streamers, we kind of talked about this yesterday, for people who subscribe to a lot of streamers, you're constantly now getting emails about, hey, in order to give you the best possible service, it's all this big, long thing till they get to the meat of it. It's going to cost you $2 more a month. And there's going to be a law of diminishing returns there because a lot of these things, especially Netflix, kind of plateauing with subscribers. They're like, we're not getting more subscribers. So you got to raise the price, or you got to crack down on sharing, or whatever. And this is something that they probably should have done from the jump, but they wanted people coming in.
Yeah.
So yeah, share your account. It's cool. Mm-hmm. However, And so I think one by one, I'm sure Disney is going to crack down on people who are sharing accounts. All of the streaming services I subscribe to, when I click on the menu, there are 4 or 5 profiles on it, right? It's like me, my family, the in-laws, my older kids. So I don't know.
Yeah, I have a similar situation where all my kids have their own profiles, and it's time to have they got to grow up. It's time to grow up.
It's time to fly, get out of the nest.
Get on your own Netflix.
It's all big.
Why don't you just
start your own algorithm?
Why don't they just Venmo you $8 a month?
Yeah, okay.
Why not? $8 a month.
I'll
stay on my account.
I'll just pay for it, but it's just they're not going to send me the $8.
You don't think so?
I know my kids.
No, but you send them. You have a notice, and you send it to them. Hey, $8 a month, or set it up auto $8 a month.
Yeah, it's all right. I can handle.
You know,
paying
teenagers
the
and
$8.
nobody wants to pay for anything. And nobody wants to have anything if they have to pay for it. So, you know, like my son is going to be in New York this weekend visiting a friend of his. And his Christmas gift was that my ex-wife and I were going to pay for the trip. And so I paid for the plane ticket, and my ex is paying for like his expenses while he's there. He's going to be visiting a friend in Williamsburg. And I can't give him any recommendations because I've never been to Brooklyn. Anytime I've ever gone to New York, I've been in Manhattan because that's where our friends are. And so so in my brain, I assumed that's where his friend lived, which is silly because most people don't live there. And so he goes, oh, we're going to be in Williamsburg. We're going to have a lot of fun. I go, yeah, I wish I could point you in some. You guys probably could. You guys have been there, haven't you?
7 years or so.
Yeah, I've never been.
I avoided Brooklyn at all costs.
Why is that?
Because I don't do well on the stages there. Brooklyn people are mean.
Oh, you mean professionally? It's still
Professionally.
hipsters, right?
It's super, super, super young crowds.
Yeah.
So if you're not hitting every single trigger word, they don't want to hear about it.
Gotcha.
Like if you're not LGBTQ+, if you're not a feminist, if you're not talking about it's very, very,
They don't want to hear from
very
white
trendy.
cis men
They don't want to hear from
or
any
white cis ladies.
Yes. I don't think they want to hear from anybody cis of any color.
What about sus?
Maybe cis? But it's like a going joke in the New York comedy community where they're like, yeah, no one does well in Brooklyn.
Don't go out to Brooklyn.
They're
man.
like, unless you have,
Well,
I'd be
and if you
interested
do,
to see-
and conversely, I would imagine if you do really well in Brooklyn, you're not going to do well elsewhere.
you're not going to do well at the
Because
clubs in
you're
Manhattan.
in a dome
Right.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to get out there and see how my story about my son goes in Brooklyn.
They probably wouldn't like you to start.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I imagine that, but I'm hoping that by the end of
A
it, they like win them
40-year-old
over.
straight white man,
Yeah,
0%
I'm like,
chance.
let me tell you about trans people.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And they're like, oh wait, he's an ally.
Oh, hold on.
Do I need to change the way I am? No. It's the 40-year-olds that are wrong.
Right. Jason in Lakewood. Alan, don't sleep on the work from home fans.
Oh yeah.
I listen to the show from 2 to 6. Before then, I was only listening during my commute. I guess I forget how many people are, because there's been such a push to get people back in the office, which is a real double-edged sword because especially these tech companies, you read about guys like Elon Musk. He's like, I want people back in the office. It's like, bro, you work in you've created one of the only sectors where people can work from anywhere. You are just a maniac, and you want to lord over physical bodies in the office. They don't need to be there. And even for those people doing that kind of work, even if they are in the office, headphones on, down at the computer, they're not hanging out and talking to each other. You can literally do that job from anywhere. If you're a welder, you can't do that remotely. But it's so weird that like Facebook, Twitter, they got 5 people left working at Twitter. I want people back in the office. Why? It has nothing to do with you want people in the office for the work.
It's about power and
Yes,
control.
of course. You're not running a car dealership. You're running a company where people can do their work from anywhere. I have friends who work for Google, sold their place in Oakland, moved to Denver for a little while. Then they'll figure it out. They can work from wherever the whole time. So you got to be back in the office. Like, what? I get why they want it, but I also fully understand when people don't want to do it. And if you're somebody who has the luxury of because you hear that from a lot of people who are traditionally younger, single, they don't have too much tethering them. They go, well, if that's what it's going to be, I'm going to quit. Like, God, that'd be amazing, right? Because how many people can just quit their job?
Oh.
You hear that all the time. People go, I'll just quit. You will over that? I could never just quit my job. Even if I wanted to, which I don't.
Yeah, but you are the job.
Who is the job?
You, here. You know what I'm saying? You can't quit this because it's your thing. The people who can just quit their job are data entry guys.
I could quit this.
But not as quickly as
there you
someone who works like in a replaceable field.
Well,
Someone
we're
who
all
goes-
replaceable. I mean, I've been
Not to
replaced
the
at radio
same-
stations all across this country. I
To
mean,
the person who goes in and does data entry 8 hours a day.
Okay, but I
No.
don't think those are the people that they're clamoring to have them. Those people, the faceless people you're talking about,
Tech guys. IT guys.
Yeah, but for some reason, these companies want them in the office, and it's like, listen, guys, you're being hoisted with your own petard here. Like, I know why you want them. Guys like Elon Musk they're bored walking around with nobody to point at and scream at. But that's not a reason to tell people they got to come back into the office. You know, I mean, we are in these brand new studios downtown, but the suite out there, the office-ish part, is still very much a hybrid thing. So as many people as work here, you can walk by these front windows any day of the week, and you'll see maybe 5 or 6 people. So, you know, we're in here every day. But as far as the huge part of the office suite out there, there aren't 40 people in there every single day. And that's fine. They don't have to be. There are people working for this company I haven't seen in 3 years. Mm-hmm. They're still working for us. I can still text them and go, how's it going? Then they'll go, I don't work for you. That's how we find out.
This?
Hey, how's it going? Oh, I don't work for the company anymore. Oh, you don't? Somebody texted me about a week or so ago, out of the blue. Somebody works for the company, worked for a long time, a good friend. Hey, how's it going? It's like, I'm not with the company anymore. I moved on. Okay. Well, I'm glad you told me, because no one else would have told me. I would have been like a dummy texting you going, hey, how about X, Y, and Z? And they go, I don't know what you're talking about. Because they don't tell us. So it's just, I don't know. I'm sure there are people who are way more versed in how those things are supposed to work than I would be. But these tech companies that demand people back in the office, like, I don't get it. It's just a power play. It's not a pragmatic solution. It's not the employee's fault that you fired everybody in a fit of pique, and now you got nobody minding the store. Alan, I've done it many times and for much less. Oh, quitting? That's what I'm saying. I mean, maybe if you have nothing holding you back, maybe if you're like, when you're younger and you're single, and I don't know. Because that's what I love about like sitcoms and stuff, where people will quit their job, like their really good job, and then they'll go get a job. You know what I really want to do? They'll get a job in like a record store.
Right.
But they don't lose their apartment.
No.
They still got their car. It's like, oh, you're making 6 figures at the a record store, are you? I'm following my bliss. Obviously, that's a television show, but it is funny in that it doesn't really reflect reality at all. Alan, you clearly don't understand how good of a welder I am. I can weld from 10 miles away. That's good.
Good welding.
That's really good.
But if the job's 11 miles away?
Oof.
Also, they're going to have drones that'll do the welding for you. They're going to take your job.
One time I saw Mary at a full lesbian show in Brooklyn. I think it was me and one other dude. Does that mean anything to you? Was it Mary Santora and the full lesbians? Was that the 3-woman show you were doing?
I've literally done, I think, 2 or 3 shows in Brooklyn, and I don't know how many lesbians were on them. Mm. The last one I did, there was 6 people. So if you're one of the 6, you would have been there with a couple, and then you didn't say anything.
In
to
like
me.
the basement of a Chinese restaurant?
No, it's
like you and Todd Barry.
No, it's called the Tiny Cupboard. It's like a legit space for comedy.
Was there a tiny Indian in it?
There's not.
Oh.
But I performed there twice, and I performed at a place called The Gutter,
which
is a bowling alley.
Put your mind in the gutter.
I don't think there were a lot of lesbians on that show.
Would Mary's dead dad jokes and post-strict religion stuff buy her any Brooklyn cred?
No.
No, they probably
they
probably snapshot you from the jump, right? They probably
100%.
assume, yeah.
I don't have glasses. I'm not wearing weird clothes that don't fit right.
Right. It's like 1992 all over again.
Yeah. It's upsetting. I went shopping the other day, and I tried on some like straight leg, high-waisted pants and these tiny little tops. And I'm like, guys, I can't. This is just, it looks so bad. It's just not for everybody. Because in the 90s, all the girls who are wearing those big oversized clothes are super thin. So I think it looks different on them than on someone with meaty thighs, I don't know. And the girl at the store is trying to tell me, like, no, it's you look amazing. That's the in look right now. I was like, I feel so
Stupid.
unattractive.
It is
like,
wild, but it is wild. My daughter is 18 and at college, just finished her freshman year. It is wild to see her dress the way my girlfriends dressed in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Because it's 30 goddamn years ago. It's so wild.
But everything's just like a little bit different.
Well, yeah,
a
I mean, you
little.
got to
Like,
put
it's
your own
just-
thing
yeah,
on
they
it,
get-
but it's
but it's
like,
just-
there's a lot of girls on campus who look like Elaine Bennis all of a sudden.
It's not for me. It's not a good look for me. I'm
Mm.
just waiting until we're only 10 years away from the skinny jeans and going out tops coming back, and I'm fine with that.
Mike from Parma, he used to work in our building at Oak Tree.
Yeah.
He's strictly work from home now.
Nice.
And he welds.
Oh, he welds.
Oh,
He's welded.
he welds like Tuesday. Anyway. Listen. Bill is screwed on the Netflix thing. He can't even afford an $8 haircut. What does that mean?
Oh, shaggy hair.
Because my hair is longer.
Oh, yeah.
I can afford the haircuts. I just don't
He
want
doesn't
them.
want to. He's not
growing
going
it
to
out.
bend to big comb
Mm-hmm.
or small
I'm not gonna
comb
let-
like Mary. Yeah.
Dad Mary tell me how to live my life.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I like how, did you see how speaking of the streamers, did you see how this guy, David Zaslav, who's the CEO of Discovery or whatever, he's the guy that, because they merged with HBO, he's the guy who said, get rid of HBO. He was giving the speech at Boston University and everybody was heckling him. Did you see that?
No.
They're like, pay your writers. The graduating students, the guy's standing up there with Jack Nicholson sunglasses on. And
Did you see the lady giving the margarita speech?
no.
Let me see if I can find that and send it to you because it is wonderful.
At a college?
Yeah, she's gone viral before because she's just like all about like abstinence. But it's fantastic.
Some people
Pay your writers.
will be looking for a fight. But don't be the one they find it with. Focus on people's good qualities. Jack was right. In my career, I've seen so many talented
Jack Welch, former GE chairman, he's talking about. That's the guy you really want to take your modern business practices
You
from.
can't choose the people that you work with. Figure out.
There's
what
people
you
out there he's looking at with signs that say WGA and pay your writers.
and do what it takes to navigate their challenges. We all have them. The reality is,
Well, anyway, this guy's making, $30 million a year, and they got writers out on strike. So they're like, boo. No wonder you wear the sunglasses so they don't see the terror in your eyes when you're up there speaking. Hey, let me go to Mike, who checks in from the West Coast of Ohio. Hello.
Hey, Alan, hate the show.
Hey, thank you, Mike. What's going on?
Well, I just had an interesting update. I don't know if you've been following it. It's gotten pretty juicy. Some tea sipping online, as the youngins would say.
Yeah.
That nurse and the black guy in New York that were like fighting over the rental bike, and that whole situation.
Don't know
I don't know
that.
if you saw like the. Yeah, there was like the viral video where there's like the nurse is like, "This is my bike, help me."
Oh,
help
yes,
me."
yes, I did
And,
see
like,
that. That's right. He already paid for it, and
Yeah,
she,
so-
walks up and swipes it.
Something like that, yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw in the last week, there was like a barrage of media interviews with the nurse's lawyer and the PR firm that they hired to get on TV and explain how she's being defamed. And here's the receipt of her. She actually had the bike, and the guy was trying to steal it from her. So that had happened over the last week. And the interesting part of that is like they have a receipt and they kept showing it, but they didn't show the timestamp for some reason. And a lot of people started asking. The black guy's his like sister is then on TikTok being like, "Oh, here's our receipts." And so how it works is those bikes in New York, there's like a unlimited pass, but you can only use a bike.
Mike, I'm falling
for,
asleep
like,
here.
40
What's going on with this? Is like the most boring viral story of all time. This went viral because they were arguing over receipts for the bike.
Yes. So who's lying about it is the real thing. Apparently, the nurse and the PR firm went on CNN, MSNBC, and is lying about it.
Got it. Okay, thank you. There's Mike from the west coast of Ohio. Boy, if you need any more evidence that people are just dying for things to get pissed off about, what could be more boring than a story like that? I have a receipt for this bike. No, he took it from me. No, I have. He's black and I'm white, but I paid for it. And it's Good Morning America sits down with the bike lady. Holy Christ. I got a break. Not a moment too soon. Thank you, Mike. You want to get a text? 35192, AlanCoxShow.com. You want to watch, and we'll be back.
The Alan Cox Show on 100.7